Hey everybody, this is Mark Ornberger, host of the Graphic Novel Apostle podcast. On this week's episode, we're going to be presenting to you the second half of our conversation with Adriano Ariganello of Pesto Comics. In the first half of our conversation with Adriano, which is of course the immediately prior episode in the podcast feed, we talked all about where he got started with setting up Pesto Comics, the first few campaigns that they did. We talked about the book Crazy Latte Thing Called Love that we have done a book club episode on previously in the podcast. And as we reached the breaking point in that conversation where we cut off the first episode, we had been discussing a prose multi-genre anthology series that Adriano had collected and edited and published from a host of different authors called Big Smoke Pulp, Volume 1. And we talk some about his plans for publishing Big Smoke Pulp Volume 2. And that's where we're going to pick up in today's conversation. And so, after our normal intro, it's just going to jump right back in. If you haven't listened to the first half of our conversation, I hope you will go back and do that now, and then come back and join us here for the second half. This was such a fun conversation. I thought what Adriano had to offer in terms of the challenges that go along with starting your own independent comic book label and the attitude that he was able to carry into that and the experiences that he had that took him up and down and kind of on the roller coaster that goes into those first few years of starting a new project like this was just absolutely fascinating. It was a really good time. Adriano was a great guy to talk to. I enjoyed it so much, and I hope you will enjoy this conversation too. And so, here's today's episode.
Once a month, when the moon reaches its highest point in the sky and the wild creatures call out to the night, he emerges from a private sanctuary in an undisclosed location outside of Little Rock, Arkansas. Arrayed in his priestly vestments, carrying forth the good news that comic books and graphic novels aren't just for kids, that they aren't just mass and spandex superheroes, that storytelling in a graphic format can be so much more. He is the Graphic Novel Apostle.
Something you did with Big Smoke Pulp for the physical volume that I thought was really cool, and aside from your special hardcover, for those of us who bought the softcover version, you did that, what is the term you used, the pocketbook size?
Yeah, pocketbook size, yes. And
That was nice.
right, they turned out really good, and the whole idea was like with 500 pages it was a little thicker than than you might hope, especially given that it was meant to be a pocketbook, and the whole thing with the pocketbook was those novels that those, now they're all kind of yellowed, but the white covers that you literally throw in your pocket and read on the train or something like that, but it's a little harder when it's a 500 plus page book.
Sure,
So
sure.
so I'm rethinking whether to repeat that with the second one or maybe just make it a smidge bigger to fit a few more words on the page. We'll see. It may not be the exact same format, but we'll do our best.
I would vote for that again. I sure liked it, except that for something that was supposed to harken back to the pulp era, paper quality was too high.
Yes, and believe it or not, I did look into that. How can I get these recycled copies? How can I get these recycled pages? It's more expensive. It's
No kidding.
significantly more expensive than using the glossy magazine type because that's
Is that right?
yeah, that's all that's printed nowadays apparently. So all of the books that are on the shelves right now are all in this kind of glossy print and magazines. So it's kind of like actually comics themselves have gone from newsprint to these glossy pages. It's the same thing. It's the paper of the day, I guess. Right.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
That's very surprising.
Right. I thought, oh, okay, this is going to be great. Like, I want it to be pulpy, and in doing so, it'll be a little cheaper and a little help that if I get this cheaper paper, right, this garbage
Mhm.
paper that we're all used to, it'll harken back in the right way. And yet, no, it was significantly like it would have priced me out entirely, like doubled the price of each book to use the
Wow.
recycled paper. So it's
Who would
wild.
have imagined?
Who would have
Yeah.
imagined, right? So that
Okay.
I do wish that I could do that though. I wish I could get the proper paper, but we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a special edition that comes out in the future or something. Who knows? And just say,
For more money, we'll lower the quality for you.
yeah,
I
right.
like what a pitch.
Yeah. Do you want to feel like it's authentic? Well, that comes at a price. So, so yeah. So that was Big Smoke Pulp. That's how I ended 2024. So, right? That's right. That's how I ended 20. It's been a whirlwind of a year because I have the other half of the things I've released all came out this year as I ramped things up, because once I got kind of comfortable with doing this Kickstarter thing and production and lettering was something I learned kind of on the fly. Like, I didn't letter Unlimited Udo. I've lettered every other book I've done since. I also did all the formatting for Big Smoke Pulp. So it's just something I've always been interested in, and I get frustrated when it's done poorly. If you want it done right, you do it yourself, kind of thing. I can't draw,
Sure.
but I can sure figure out the design of things. So what is it? Nate Pico's book. He does I can't remember what it's called, but he has a book about lettering. And then there's the Comic Craft guys like Richard Starkings and them.
Mhm.
They have a video on LinkedIn, like a video course. It used to be Linda, and then LinkedIn bought them. So
Okay.
LinkedIn Learning, I think it's called. They had a course for lettering as well. So they have two very different ways of doing it. I took both and I made my own way of doing it. I also don't use Illustrator. I use Affinity Designer. It's a lifetime license, but it works the same. It has a little bit of intricacies that are different, but it's the anti Adobe way of doing it. So I was happy to do that. So I had to translate how they do things a little bit anyway. So I came up with my own method. But now I'm very comfortable lettering. So now I can do it a lot more comfortably. I'm getting a lot more brave about some of the stuff I'm doing in the books too. But all of that kind of came to a head, and at the beginning of 2025, I decided I'm going all in with this. So my next book was something that was built for Kickstarter. It's the name is kind of silly. It's Naked Kaiju Woman. So
Mhm.
the book isn't it's an I said it's an NSFW kaiju action book. However, it's all kind of tongue in cheek. It knows what it is. Like, I didn't do a nudie book for the sake of it, kind of just like I need money. It wasn't me selling out. It was my send up of Kickstarter and the nudie books and all that stuff, right? Like, there's a story there. And it's, if you've read anything I've read before, you know that I have a kind of way of seeing things and a way of telling my stories that I think carries through this, even though there's a bunch of naked people in it.
Mhm.
Right? Like, it's in there. It's definitely like not something you want kids to read. It's not it's an
Right.
18 plus book. However, it's not the cover mill thing, right? Where there's a
Mhm.
bunch of just naked people and each cover is a different color, but it's the same damn cover, right? Like, that's what I was really doing a send up of. Was I know what Kickstarter says they want, but I'm still going to tell you a story.
Sure. Sure.
And the story itself was really meant to be just kind of reflecting that back about, like, the story is this girl Claire. She grows into a giant woman. Her clothes don't grow with her. It's the She-Hulk thing, right? Like,
Sure.
how does how do her clothes grow every time? Who knows? So they don't, right? That's how we get her naked. But the main thing was, now that she's a big naked lady, people can't get past the fact that she's naked.
Okay.
She's saving the city. She's stopping these kaiju from destroying them. But people just can't get over the fact that there's a giant naked lady walking around. She should have some money,
Right.
right?
Sure.
That's the whole thing of the book. So it wasn't meant to be like sexy or anything like that. It's silly. It's really silly. And I think people kind of got that. So I feel like I'm getting a little bit of both audiences with that book, where it's the people who are like, naked ladies, I like those, click. And then the people who get it, who get what I'm doing.
Sure.
I'm really seeing that with the current campaign for number 2. All the people that have come back will be like, I like what you did there, right? So I think I the message got through for those who read it, but I understand why people might see it and be like, not for me. Again, it looks like a nudie book, but I swear there's more to it.
Well, and in one of your recent Substack posts, you titled it Equal Opportunity Nudity because with what you're crowdsourcing on Kickstarter right now for Naked Kaiju Woman 2, we're introducing a Naked Kaiju Man as well.
Yes, that's right. The post was equal opportunity nudity. I just like the title, but but yeah, and what I'm doing with this is, again, I'm the first one was a send up of just Kickstarter in general, and you guys say you want nudity. Well, I'm going to give you that, but I'm still going to force you to read my stories. This one is more just me now playing with genre a little bit.
Mhm.
So naked kaiju man, naked kaiju woman, of course they have to meet, and maybe they date and they have a meet cute and all that business, but of course, things don't go exactly as you would hope or as you would expect. There's something nefarious happening behind this very innocent meeting of these two beautiful, giant, naked people. So,
Oh, how funny. How
yeah.
funny. And, you've remarked that that brought a whole lot of new audience to Pesto Comics that you had not seen before with the earlier books.
Yes, absolutely. It was my Latte was my breakthrough book, I would say. That was the book that I got attention from people that I never had before. I was getting like legit pros looking at that book and saying, "Wow, I need to support this." Like I sent books to a lot of like actual like people I idolize in the comics industry, which was wild to me. The names I was seeing on the labels that I was sending out, I couldn't believe.
That's awesome.
Right?
I'm so happy for you for that. That is really cool.
Oh, thank you, thank you. So yeah, so I really that Latte was the one that I felt like, okay, like I can do this. Like this can happen. Naked Kaiju Woman was the one where Kickstarter paid attention.
Mhm.
I was on the front page. Like I'll go incognito and check out Kickstarter to see what it's recommending, and almost every time I went, it was my book. And
Oh,
that,
wow.
yeah, that was something I'd never seen before. That it's like I am just, it was just pushing itself. Like I just had backers showing up randomly,
Mhm.
and I did nothing. I did no advertising. I did very few like pushes to other campaigns. I just launched it and I watched it like just skyrocket. So that was the
Yeah.
first one that I felt like, okay, like something's happening. And that led to some other things for me. It led to me getting on more podcasts. Like I keep mentioning the Comics Launch one, like that brought the attention to them. And they're like, you have to be on the show now. You've done something special. And that in turn brings people to all my other books. So it kind of worked. Like the,
Yeah.
right. The whole idea of this was to do something for Kickstarter that would crack through, and it absolutely did. And the good thing is it's much like From Parts Unknown, the plan was to do a series. So I have 5 stories planned. Number 2 is out now, and there's 3 more behind it. And same idea. We're going to be playing with genre tropes and all that. But now I have something that I can launch and feel fairly confident will do well, regardless of what happens. I hit launch, and I'm going to have a certain amount of backers coming in, which is not something I can say for everything I release. Usually there's a lot more sweat
Sure.
and grinding and that that comes into it. This one, I hit the button and I can walk away.
Well, good.
With the current campaign, I'm still doing a little bit of advertising because I want to juice it as much as I can and get it as big as I can. But I know that I can just hit the button and walk away, and I can fund the book easily. So you need that. It's the film thing, one for me and one for you kind of thing. This
Mhm.
is the idea,
Sure.
except it's all for me still. I'm still enjoying doing all of it.
Yeah.
So, with the big success with the Naked Kaiju Woman book that I had at the beginning of the year, I thought I was set. I thought this was the new standard. I thought every book I had launched from then on would just sell itself, and that was not the case. So, what I did was I launched From Parts Unknown number 2. While all of that was happening between issue 1 and issue 2, Daniel and JP had actually finished issue 3 already. Like they were so far ahead of things that I had 2 finished books in front of me, and I was only launching issue 2. So
Mhm.
what I ended up doing was I launched number 2. It did well, but I lost a lot of backers, which was
Hmm.
upsetting. Yeah, I didn't see a lot of people coming back. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. And that's when I started to have this like crisis of like, okay, things aren't going exactly the same, but I think I have the answer to this problem, which is people need to know that the end is coming soon based on feedback that I got at like conventions and stuff. I'd have a lot of people walking by and I'd show them this book and they'd be like, "Oh, when is the next one?" I'm like, "Oh, very soon." And they're like, "Oh, wonderful, great. I can't wait to read the whole series." So I thought, "Oh, that means people want the books as soon as they can get them in their hands." So I launched number 2, and that didn't seem to be the case. So I took the wrong lesson from that.
Hmm.
Which was okay, so if everybody's saying they want to read it as quickly as possible, I'm going to launch number 3 right away. So that's what I did. I finished number 2, received the funding, I did the surveys. In that survey was, here is the link to number 3. We are launching in a few days. And I launched number 3, and it did a little bit worse than number 2. So it progressively fell down with each campaign. That said, it was still pretty good, but the fact that the third one was so close to the second one, I actually received feedback from backers from number 2 saying, "What are you doing? I haven't even received the copy in my hands yet. I can't back number
Okay.
3 without reading the second one," which was,
Mhm.
it was one of those things. As people said it to me, I'm like, of course, like I'm a dummy. I was picturing the LCS where, you know, February, first Wednesday of February, you pick up issue 1. First Wednesday of March, you pick up issue 2. Well, obviously that's not going to happen when you're shipping to Ireland, and you're shipping to Switzerland, and even all over the US and Canada. Like, unless you're in Toronto, where I would put it in the mail and you'd get it the next morning, it took a while for these books to get out to you, right? Not everybody wants to read it digitally, and I respect that, but I didn't respect it enough at the time. So I was too quick to launch the third one. There I had to lick my wounds. I was almost in shock of how it fell off. So with that, the original plan for the book was to do 5 issues. I usually write it out in 5 issues. But as I was reviewing it and saying, okay, I still had that idea of people want to get to the end of this book as quickly as possible, and it's not growing with each campaign, which is what you would hope with a series, that you get all the people from number 1, or not all. You never get all of them, but you get a decent amount of people that read the first one coming to the second, plus some new people. And then with that, you grow with each campaign. I was seeing the opposite. I was seeing people drop off entirely. So I thought, rather than stretch this out any further than it needs to be, we'll combine the final issue, 4 and 5, into a final issue. So now it was a 44 page. There's a couple pages that we thought we were going to do 2-page splash. We shrunk them to 1. So it ended up being 44 instead of 2. 24 page would be 48. So it's a 44 page book. And I waited for everyone to get the book in their hands. Right? I was eager. I was ready. I was eager to launch. I had all the pages I needed. I had everything I needed in place, but I waited. I waited to make sure that everybody got it, everybody read it, everybody was happy with it. While this was all happening, we were having all kinds of weird tariff trouble. Again, I'm in Canada, so it was very difficult to get books to people. So fortunately, I was able to correct some of those issues. We also had some angry posties that were destroying books.
No.
I put beautiful "Do Not Bend" stickers on a lot of the packages, and that was taken as a challenge. People would just wrench on them, and I bag and
Gosh.
board the books, so they're relatively sturdy, and they just really reefed on them. So another lesson learned. So with From Parts Unknown number 4 and beyond, I have some Gemini mailers. I had to get those, again, I'm in Canada, I had to get them imported, which had a whole bunch of costs. Although now they print them here, so I will have Canadian Gemini mailers for the next campaign. But
Okay.
anyways, at least they will be sturdy and safe, and they will get to you in one piece.
Yeah.
So I took all these lessons from the 2 truncated. I basically ran what was 1 2-month campaign all at once. I had 2 separate campaigns, but I just did it so quickly that I didn't even really have the chance to reassess. I talk about my newsletter over and over, and the podcast and that. And what I always do is I do this postmortem where I go through the whole campaign and how it went and what I did wrong and what I can do better and what I'll learn. And I didn't even have time to do that because I was launching the campaign so quickly. So I didn't learn anything from 2 to carry on to 3. I just knew that it was dropping off. So I took the breath, and then I launched number 4, and it became my second best campaign to date because I took the time and I did everything. I set everything up right, and I made sure I had my promo set up and my ads, and I did secret awards for the previous backers. So for those people that were kind enough to stick it through issues 2 and 3, I rewarded them with a discount on number 4, and likewise for the people on 2, and so on and so forth. And that was thanks to the secret reward program coming out with Kickstarter, that you can give people links that unveil these rewards. So I was able to do that and reward those people that actually did care enough to stick through, even though I was making it very difficult for them to do so. So that ended up being my second best campaign to date. It beat Latte. It did everything it was supposed to. I was very happy with how that ended. I just received them yesterday. They're all behind me.
Ooh,
Yeah, so those will be
nice.
hitting the mail very soon.
Oh, that's exciting. I am looking forward to the conclusion of that series for sure.
I'm,
And,
I'm happy to hear
I
that.
got to tell you, when you announced that you were going to combine issues 4 and 5 and wrap up the series, as a reader, I was actually very pleased about that because I get a little FOMO, so I don't want to trade weight all the time on things. And I also realize with an indie series like this, it may not get the trade treatment at the end. But I get frustrated when, with the pace of Kickstarter, just by its nature, it takes 2 years for the whole story to be put together, and so when it was 5 issues, I thought, "Adriano, that's a long time, man, that's a lot of issues." And so when you said those last 2 will be combined, I thought, "Great," because I've enjoyed everything so far, gives me a good chance to go back and reread the first couple, so that I've got the full story and the full context for the final issue, then we will see the button on it, and we'll see what turns out with these brothers and the damsel in distress that they have picked up along the way too, who also has more to her backstory.
Yeah, that's right. That's the idea, right? Like it was the initial idea of rapid releasing these again with to a fault the way I did it, but I still wanted to honor that in a way. And that was kind of the
Mhm.
idea of combining them in the end, of saying, okay, let's just get you the story. And the big thing with From Parts Unknown versus the other series I have going on is this one was very much a serialized story. So you are not getting the full story, right? With each issue, you're getting a chapter in the story. So getting to the ending is much more important than a book where it's episodic. You're getting a beginning, middle, and end, and then there's another issue that's the similar. This is, if you read only issue one, you barely got started. You don't know what's going to happen. So getting to the end is critical when you're talking about this. And like you said, Kickstarter, the thing I'm always cognizant of is that people almost have an expectation that if I support issue one and this is a 5-issue series, like I'll see you in 3 years, right? Like I'm not going to get this full story, and that kind of keeps people from supporting it in a lot of cases, reasonably so. Like I don't even blame them, because I've had cases like that where it's like, are you ever going to do issue 3? And they're like, oh, I don't know, like life got in the way, or who knows, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
so it makes people reticent. So I really wanted to give people some comfort in the fact that like this, it has an ending, and I have the books in hand. It's just, that I got to make sure it gets through the pipe at the right time. So yeah, so that was a big thought in getting it all together and out. I still wanted to have that rapid release and give people the sense that yes, you will get a complete story in a reasonable amount of time. Like we're talking 6 months for the whole 4 issues, and the last one being a double issue. Getting that in people's hands, that was intentional. I wanted people to get the story as quickly as possible while still making it doable on my end, right? Because there are
Mhm.
expenses in that I have to recoup, and that's why I'm doing it serialized and not just doing a trade right off the bat. I did have a lot of people saying though, like, I'll wait for the trade, and it's something we talked about kind of offline. I'd never want to punish people who support the campaigns. I know a lot of people, when it comes to indies, will say, I'm supporting you because I'm supporting you. Like, you do what you got to do. And I appreciate that. But I still don't want you, even a little bit, to have that sense that I'm taking advantage of you. That thank you for getting all the single issues. Next month, I'm doing the trade. Like, I never want you to feel that way. Like, well, you could have saved a lot of money if you just waited. Like, I want you to feel like you're getting something exclusive. You're getting something special for being a part of this ride at this time, at this juncture. That's not to say that I'm not planning to collect it as a trade, but I don't have it on the calendar right now. And my
Sure.
2026 dance card is getting very full very quickly. So, yes, it's coming. I'm intentionally not putting it on the calendar quite yet, because I don't want people who haven't read issue 4 to hear that I'm doing the trade next month. So, thanks for your money. You could have got it cheaper, kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
Or in a different format or whatever. I never want people to feel ripped off. So,
Yeah,
yes,
that's great. Makes a ton of sense.
exactly.
A lot of hard decisions. When you were talking about the issue 2, here's the link for issue 3. To me, on the front end, it seems like that's a lesson that you only learn through trial and error, because everything in the world tells you momentum is what's going to sell your next issue. And when I got done reading issue 2, doggone it, I wanted to read issue 3. And so, it's very, very good. It makes perfect sense that you would want to capitalize on that momentum. But then when you realize just the timing, when it's not like your LCS. On the back end, I see why you kick yourself and go, "Why didn't I think of that?" But I don't know why you would think of that.
Right? Yeah, exactly. It's the whole idea of like you're paddling your canoe, and halfway through your stroke you pick up the oars and you try to go again. It's like you're not getting anywhere any faster. If anything, you just made your life a little bit harder. Like see the stroke through, and then and go again, right?
Yeah.
And that's something, again, like you said, I didn't know until I did it, and then it became super clear to me. And it's something nobody warns you, nobody tells you that, like, because you don't generally see it, that a lot of people are like doing these rapid release things. You just see, they release an issue, and then 3 months later the next one comes out, and you don't think anything of it. You think, oh, well, it takes them that long. It's like, no, there's likely some thought behind it, and nobody's said it out loud, at least nobody that I heard, that maybe
Mhm.
you should leave a little bit more buffer than you think between campaigns, even if the book's ready. So that's something I've learned, and I will carry forward. So that brings us to now in 2025, the current campaign I have. So we talked about it, so I won't get too deep into it. but Naked Kaiju Woman 2. So it's like a rom-com version of Naked Kaiju Woman, doing very well. Right now it's so Naked Kaiju Woman 1 at the beginning of the year was my best campaign thus far. Number 2 is my now best campaign, and we're 7 days in. So
Well,
absolutely
and in
wild.
the show notes for this, we'll put up a link to where people can get to that Kickstarter.
Wonderful.
And then, of course, you have those back catalog bundles that people can get too if they are interested in picking up any of these other books we've talked about. Man, I will shout to anyone who will listen to me, they ought to pick up a copy of Crazy Latte because I think that is such a fun book. You know, in between the time that it first arrived in my mail and the time that we did this for the book club episode of the podcast a few weeks ago, I probably went back and picked it up off my shelf or looked at the digital version that I have saved on my iPad 2 or 3 times in between because I just thought, you know, that one, it was a light story, it was fun, and it made me feel good, and I laughed. You know, laughed when I read different things in the book or when I saw different images of that character Liam. So I really want to push that one in particular to anyone who's listening to this audience. Would you mind to talk just a little bit? I'm going to ask you to be, you know, a little bit vulnerable if you're comfortable with it here. But you talked about going from the heights of publishing Naked Kaiju Woman 1 and having great, great big success with that, and then going back into issue 2 of From Parts Unknown. I will tell you, I am not trying to make a business venture, at least at this point in life, out of the Graphic Novel Apostle podcast. The money that it costs to put up these issues and have them hosted, or these episodes and have them hosted, is to me, it's money that I planned for a hobby, and it's a hobby that I really love, and it's worth that investment to me. So it should be no sweat off my back if I put out an episode and it doesn't do well. But yet, find myself checking my app every day to see how many downloads did I get today? Where did it come from? What back issue episodes did somebody come and listen to for the first time? And does it look like they're working through the catalog? It's hard not to put some of your self worth into that. And there are times where I go, okay, I see the download count for this, and I know that there's an audience outside of the people that I know, you know, that enjoy the show, or at least are willing to keep listening to it, whether they enjoy it or not. And that makes me really happy. But all the same, I sometimes go, is it worth doing it aside from the joy I get out of putting it together? And, you know, you just got to have kind of like those dark night of the soul kind of moments. Would you mind to talk about that when it's also your money wrapped up into putting these projects out?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it was a high and a low all at once. Like I had my best campaign in January and I had my worst campaign in April. All like within 4 months I hit the high and the low. It helped having seeing that I could hit the heights to know, okay, this is clearly an error I've made. Right? It's not a full rejection of everything I'm doing. It's not that I don't belong here. It's just I made some technical errors and I'm paying for them gravely. Um, it was fine. I mean, it is what it is. And again, I put it up as this is my tuition for me to learn how to do this right the next time. Right. So
Oh, that's a great attitude. Yeah.
yeah, and if you talk to me back in April, like I wasn't happy about it. Don't get me wrong, like I wasn't, I wasn't bouncing off the walls. Like, oh, I learned a very expensive lesson. I was definitely upset about it to the point that, if anything, it really forced me to reevaluate and say, okay, if I'm going to do this, like I need to take things just a smidge more seriously than I have been. And from the outside, like it may look like I was doing everything I could to take things as seriously as humanly possible. I'm launching campaigns constantly. I'm getting all these artists working with me. I'm doing everything I should, but it was that extra little step, that extra little bit of care. You know, with number 3, I took it for granted that people were just going to show up again. It's like, oh, this is what you want. You want it as quickly as possible. And sometimes what people say they want and what they really want isn't the same thing. So,
Mm.
right, like I want to read issue 3 right away, and like maybe you do, but do you want to do it sight unseen? Probably not. And that was a lesson to learn. So even though people say, yeah, I'll back these as soon as they hit, like not necessarily. So that's okay. I didn't take it as personally as I thought I might, but in the midst of my third campaign, I was definitely not happy about it. It did help that I had other things, other comic book specific things, like not my personal life was fine. I don't mean that, like that was all going great. And as I say
That
this,
always helps.
yeah, as I say this, my cat is being an absolute terror. Sorry. So yeah, so I had things going really well and all that, so I'm not complaining. But I was a guest on a lot of podcasts. I was showing up at conventions I hadn't been invited to before, and meeting a lot of cool people that I never got to meet before. And it just felt like, even though I didn't feel like I was part of the community in the same way, just based on the fact that I just hit my lowest low as far as campaigns go, I was getting that satisfaction elsewhere. I was still feeling like, okay, like I'm still here. I got hit, but I can get back up and try again. So if it wasn't for that, like if all of it went bad at the same time, I might have been a little more upset, and maybe I would have really strongly reevaluated. Like, it's again very expensive endeavor. Like, I was watching my bank account very carefully and seeing how it was going in the wrong direction, and knowing that I'm not recouping what's going out as quickly because these campaigns aren't hitting. That wasn't fun. But I'd go to conventions and I'd have issue 2 in my hands, and people are like, "Oh, cool, when's issue 3?" Right? And then again, that's, "Oh, well, it's already out there." Right? Like, I was getting some of that feedback in other ways, and so
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't a total collapse, but
That's good. Man, I'm glad to hear that, because I think if I saw a big success and then something that didn't go as well right on the heels of it, this is just me in my mind, I guess, but I think a lot of people could relate to this. I'd have a hard time being quite as sanguine as it seems that you managed to be about it, even if there were some lows there. So that's great to hear. Hey, you mentioned being at conventions.
Mhm.
You know, when the thing that you are selling is a comic book and it's got a $5 price tag US. I don't know what you guys have with your funny money in Canada, but it's got a price tag that is not. It's not like you sell one copy and retire on it, you know. And then I know that like when you are starting out, you've got to pay to get access to that convention for your table, plus the time and there's probably a parking cost wherever you are, and you start thinking about it in terms of like how many copies of one of these comics do I have to sell to make it even break even
Mhm.
for all the work that I've done for this Saturday or this whole weekend that I've put together? That has to be a big challenge. And, I go to convention and I'll walk down the artist's alley where I know these are people who are just trying to get their work out there. Also, there might be 20 or 30 of them even at a small convention. And I think, well, I'm not going to buy 3 books from 30 people here today.
Mhm.
What does that feel like going into that environment? Because when I hear you talk about them, you talk about like sort of the friends you make along the way with with other creators that you've hooked up with over time. But what is that experience like as an artist who is basically paying a toll to be there and to promote your work to the public?
Yeah, it's stressful. That's the short answer. Yeah, it's a lot. Like, it's all about mindset. You go with no expectation to make table. You go expecting it to be a marketing exercise. You're going to go to meet some people who are fans of you, meet some people who aren't, and maybe you can convince them otherwise. And that's really my first couple of conventions were utter failures. I one of them, I made one sale in 2 days. There was a large storm happening in the city.
Oh man,
Yeah, it was in Niagara Falls. I'll just be open about it. It's Niagara Falls Comic Con, and it was the Friday. So Thursday, you get your VIPs in. Nobody really buys on the Thursday anyway, because everybody's waiting to see what's out there, right? So no big deal. I wasn't too stressed out. The Friday, we had a huge storm and nobody showed up to the convention. Like, there was just like
jeez,
empty aisles. Like, I went and talked to some vendors because like local LCS people there that I shop at. So I was like, "Hey, how's your day going?" And they're like, "Brutal," right? It was just a bad day again.
sure.
Act of God kind of thing. It was just a really bad storm, and who's going out in that? And that was my first convention. So
Oh
that
man,
hurt. That really hurt. I did a little better on Saturday, but it was enough that, like, I had spent the weekend there. I brought a friend in from out of town, so I ended up getting a hotel. If it was myself, I would have drove home because it was, it's 2 hours from my home. I'm in Toronto. Niagara's, about a couple hours away. Not even. I'm exaggerating, but right, it was enough that I could have made it home to sleep in my own bed. But he was another hour and a half away, so it was too much to ask to either have him suffer the drive to my place or all the way back. So I got a hotel. So that was another expense.
sure.
Yeah. So it just, like, the expenses were adding up, and I was making, by the end of it, I must have sold a dozen comics. Like, it was rough. I came nowhere near the cost of the table. And that was convention one, and I had signed up for 3 more by then. And so
Oh boy.
Yeah, and then probably the worst part was our neighbor there was from the U.S. and was not used to the Canadian consumer. As in they
Uh-oh.
we're a little tighter with our wallets here. I'll even say it myself. Like a lot of the comics I sell on Kickstarter, 80 to 90% are going to the US, right? Which makes
Mhm.
all these tariff things a lot more complicated. And my neighbor from just south of the border, he was from Buffalo, was very upset with this fact because even me, I sell a lot to the US. And so I know that you guys are much more willing to spend the money on indies. Canadians, you kind of got to prove it. There's even a thing with Canadians here, like if you're a Canadian actor, like until you guys approve, until they go to the US and succeed there, we don't accept them. It's silly.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's very strange. We're really we say we support our own, but we need your approval to start supporting our own. It's kind of silly. We're a little better
Huh.
with music, but when it comes to actors and that's what we do. And
Well, you
it
guys
seems
have the Tragically Hip.
true. Yeah, they're an exception. So we have like again, music I think is an exception. But when it comes to anything else, we're very, very tentative about who we're going to support. And that shocked my neighbor who had nothing but horrible things to say all weekend about all of us.
Ah.
But
Well, hey, let me thank you for Gordon Lightfoot, if nothing else.
of course, yes. Who doesn't like the like Gordon Lightfoot? So yeah, that was kind of a bad experience. But I think the next couple I went to, I was sitting next to people who had been around, and they're like, "Look, you don't come in expecting to make your table back. You treat this like a marketing exercise. As long as you're sitting next to good people and you're having a good time and you're meeting new people, like you'll see them later. Like don't worry about it. There's that rule in marketing where you have to see an ad like 5 or 6 times before it ever resonates. It's the same
Sure.
thing with conventions. So to go to your first convention, expect to clear your table, very unrealistic. Just like Kickstarter, just like everything else, you got to keep showing up, and it's the long tail. When they see you the fifth time and the sixth time, they're like, "Hey, I know you." It's that recognition. And then they're willing to stop at your table and maybe buy some stuff. And then when they buy that, maybe they check out your Kickstarter or they follow you to the next convention. But you have to again understand that you're going to have to put in time. You're going to have to lose some money getting tables that you're not going to recoup at the convention, but over time it starts to pay off. So I've been seeing that now. I've been lucky enough that the last couple of conventions I went to, I covered my table, I met a lot of cool people, I did all the things I was supposed to do. I had a lot of repeat people who came back, came to see me, came to see whomever. That wasn't happening in 2023 for me. Right? And that was
So
a
that
hard lesson
investment
to
has
learn.
paid off.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
are in the industry, even if you're still making some of that money, early money back up. You're part of the community now. That's great.
Yeah, exactly, right? And honestly, that's one of the best parts. Like, it's kind of goofy to say that, like, oh, I go because I like to catch up with everybody, but it's true. I love being able now to go to these conventions, and one, I know a bunch of people that I can catch up with, and vice versa. They know me. They pick me out of a crowd and be like, "Hey, man, how have you been?" And that's a wonderful feeling, and that helps with the lows of sometimes campaigns not going right or bad days at your table. Having good table mates and table neighbors can make or break a con. And unfortunately, my first one was a full on break, just in terms of the attitudes around me, just
Sure,
people
sure,
grumbling that they're not making their table. But fortunately, I've had very good experiences since. But yeah, you have to appreciate that you may not make your table, but that's not why you're there. Right? You're there to
sure.
build your brand. You're there to make friends. You're there to do all that stuff. And the rest of that comes later, but there's a price tag.
Cool. As we started this interview, you talked about it being a long game, and you have to have the attitude to have a long view. And this is one of the reasons I like your Substack podcast so much, because I get that, hear that perspective. I've thought a lot of times before about, hey, what would it mean? Because I can't draw anything. I think you have a lot of creators out there that, realize their bigger talent is for writing, but they have that ability to draw as well. And they go, okay, I'll take the shot and put my comic together. I know that if I wanted to do one day, and it would not be like what you're doing, where I want to try and launch a business, it'd be, hey, I have a story idea. I'd love to see it come to life. You can't help you become a fan of a format or a genre. You can't help thinking in those terms once in a while. And then I start thinking about the economics, and I'm like, how could you possibly make that work? And it sounds like if you're trying to do a one-off, unless you get rocketed to the moon for some reason, you probably can't expect that.
Yeah.
And the fact that you were able to take that long perspective from the beginning, That's a real credit to you, and I'm glad that that is working for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's, if you're treating it like a business, you don't open a restaurant and then you get, your weekly customers from day one, right? You got to build the
Mhm.
reputation, and you suffer through the first couple years, right? If you're lucky, only a couple years, and you have to be willing to absorb that. So yeah, if you're going to do this business, you're going to get into comics and go the indie route, and you're not just and there's other ways to do it. You could pitch publishers, and you can, get your work, and even then, you still need to hire. If you're not drawing yourself, you need to find an artist to work with, and all that, if you're going to pitch publishers, because they want to see completed work with a team that's going to be there, right? So you can't just get an artist who does 5 pages and then the pitch goes through a year later and you reach out to them and they say, I'm busy. Like, you need people who are committed. So there's caveats to the pitching side of things too. But either way, yeah, if you're going to do it, take it seriously, right? If you want this to be the thing you do, you have to pay your dues, literally, with cash, and hiring
Yeah, yeah.
artists, and paying printers, and paying for ads, all that stuff. But also your time. Like, I spend a lot of time on podcasts like this one,
Sure.
right?
Well, you've given me almost 2 hours of your night already so far,
And
and
I'm having a great time, so
well,
doesn't even
I
feel like
am
it.
too. I appreciate that, but, I always fear too when I talk to a creator, an artist, or a writer, or in this case, also a publisher that, I'm gonna spend my time and their time, really, I'm gonna spend their time on talking to me, and I'm like, I don't know if I can't promise that many, downloads to them or, that it's gonna return that many books for them. I do feel a little bit of guilt sometimes about that, or a little insecurity maybe. But I am having a ball tonight. But with you having given so much of your time already, there are a couple final aspects as we probably ought to wrap up that I want to find out about from you. Your Instant Ink podcast, your paid version of your Substack, and then just where all people can find you and where they can find your work. Would you mind to kind of hit us up with all of those things?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of a good segue talking about the Instant Ink comic book podcast. That's on YouTube, and it's also on Spotify and anywhere else you can find it, as an audio version. But the visual is what you need. So I have a friend nearby, actually in Niagara Falls, Roberto Villacava. He's an artist. I'm a writer. He's an artist. Felt like a kismet relationship. So what we do is we have writers and artists and all kinds of folks and people who just enjoy comics on, and would create a one-page comic. Much like you said, it's more about having the good time than you coming on the show and making a million sales, because the viewership isn't through the roof for reasons we've talked about, including the format of it, because it does take a couple hours to get a page down. So we're working on ways to improve that. But the whole point of that show was to have a good time and to get to meet people and build the community. And much like this podcast, where we've got to talk at length about things, and I mentioned I never really got to do this, where I've done a full retrospective of everything I've done thus far, which I really appreciate doing, and I've had a lot of fun doing. Usually when you go on a podcast, you're pitching your one book, and you're saying, this is the book, this is the things I say about the book on every podcast, rinse repeat, I'll do this on the next one in a couple days. You don't really get to understand what's happening in people's heads and their views on things and their expectations, all that stuff. But when you have them for a couple hours and you're distracting them with art being drawn and breaking a story, you really get to dig down into what people are really about a little bit. So I always mention it when people want to be on the show. I say, don't be on the show to pitch something. We're not going to help you. The dozens of viewers are not going to be interested in whatever you're selling at that time. This is for you to sell you. This is you at this point in time. This is a snapshot of where your mind is, because we're going to chat about whatever's on your mind. This is a live journal, and we're going to make some art at the same time. So it's been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of different cool people on there, and yeah, it's I'm very happy to do it. I've been having tons of fun talking to everybody, and really that's all you could ask for. But we're gonna try to get more viewers, of course. But more than anything, I've just been having fun talking to everybody. So that's the Instant Ink podcast.
What a cool idea.
Thank you.
What a cool idea. So you guys are going to start, have a conversation, and create a story from nothing. And we're going to see it come to life over the course of maybe 2 hours for a one-page comic.
Yeah.
Cool, fun idea. I love it.
Yeah, and a lot of the credit goes to Roberto, right? Like, where this happened was we were at, speaking conventions, we were at TCAF, the Toronto Comic Arts Festival. So this is the big, like, indie focused festival in Toronto. and he and I were both there. We were getting lunch. Roberto was doing a live stream every Saturday morning of him drawing. But the problem with Roberto is, like, he'll admit this himself. The problem with him is he goes silent when he draws, and that's not fun for a live stream.
And how could you expect anything else, really?
Yeah, right. He's focused.
The
So
concentration you would need. Yeah.
exactly, right. So people are on the chat and they're bugging him, and he's not paying attention, and then people drop off. So it just wasn't hitting the way he would hoped. So he's basically like, I need a distraction while I draw. So it kind of spawned from that. It's like, I can talk. If anybody's learned anything from this episode, I am happy to continue talking until somebody tells me to stop doing so. So so that was the idea. It's like, yeah, I'll distract people. We'll have people on. I'll distract them. You draw. We'll talk about whatever. If they can't talk, I'll keep talking, whatever. But right, we'll get a page down, and that this way it's effectively his live stream. He gets to showcase his art. We get to break a story together. It's a lot of fun because we do it all with live prompts too, right? So we don't know what we're going to do before we start. So it's always something like brand new and genuine. Nobody's coming in with any kind of concept of what they want to do right away. Or at least I don't think they do. If they manage to tie it into the prompts we have, good on them. But but right, it's all kind of like live together, so you get to really see the process of a whole story, even though it's only one page. A whole story of a comic book done live. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. There's been a lot of interesting conversations we've had about all kinds of stuff. Like, we have no restrictions on what we talk about, in the sense of like, you want to just talk about Star Wars, we'll talk about Star Wars for 2 hours. Cool. We've talked hockey. I'm a big hockey fan. We ended up talking hockey for way too long on a comic book podcast. But really, there's no big restriction. We try to keep it light, of course. We don't want to get into like there's enough out there about all the things that are wrong with the world. So we really just keep it light, talk about comics and pop culture and sports and whatever comes to mind. And yeah, so it's been a lot of fun getting that insight from everybody. We have people from all over too joining the podcast because we do it all virtually. It's been a lot of fun. We got to meet a lot of cool people, and it's been going pretty strong. We just aired episode 63, and we have another 10 or so more in the can ready to go, with guests scheduled now through January. So we're good until next April at this point with episodes.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very happy with how it's going. We'll try to get more and more listeners and viewers, and we have some strategies to do so. But in the meantime, yeah, it's just been a lot of fun to put together.
What do people need to search in YouTube if they want to watch that podcast?
Just
Instant Ink podcast.
Instant Ink podcast. Yeah, you can skip the comic book part. Instant Ink podcast will bring you right to it. You do the @ Instant Ink podcast after YouTube, and that'll bring you there.
Cool. And then there's also an audio version of that that's available on all the major platforms, I assume.
Correct. Yeah. So we put it through Spotify, and Spotify strips the audio and uploads it to everything else. So on Spotify itself, it has the video, but on all the other podcasting platforms, you find it as an audio version. It's pretty good to listen to as audio. There are portions, I always admit, that we may go silent as we admire the art or brainstorm what the next bubble will say. So it's not the ideal way to take on the show, but it's actually surprisingly listenable. But again, we're looking for ways to address that and make it a little more digestible. So that'll be coming, but it's a big ask because, as we mentioned, I got a lot of things going on, so working on it.
You do, yeah. And your weekly Wednesday newsletter podcast.
Yes.
People just need to search for Pesto Comics Audio Edition. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, Pesto Comics Audio Edition, or you could go to Substack, pestocomics.substack.com. It's available there, and that's available on all of your podcasting services as well as YouTube. It just uploads the audio right now. I think I mentioned at one point, but I'll mention it again. I'm going to be toying with video soon, but I'll do the same thing. It'll have video and audio, because I know a lot of you guys like to listen to just audio, like you said, while you're washing the dishes or driving, and I don't want you to force you to go into a format you're not interested in. So you'll still have whatever available, but I do read out my newsletter every week, and then that's on Wednesdays. That's free. What I've also done is on Saturdays, I have a paid version of the Substack. I'm doing that not just to try to recoup costs in that. That's not really what I'm interested in. I put a barrier up because although I'm very open and I'm very transparent with everything that's going on, I still have a level that I go deeper with the paid subscribers. So it's more of a commitment between you and I that we're going to keep these things between us, because in there I do deep dives with a lot of the campaigns, and I give you straight numbers. Like, I tell you exactly what I've made, what I've lost, how much things cost me, things I did wrong, all that stuff. I do all these deep dives. I have other topics I dig into, but it's a lot of me sharing the specifics of what I'm doing, right? And how I'm doing it, and challenges you may run into, and things that have worked for me. So all that goes behind the paywall, as I'd make it as cheap as humanly possible, as in whatever the minimum Substack allows me to charge, that's what I'm charging. So it's really just a commitment that we're going to keep this between us kind of thing. It's the people that are I know are serious are the ones that get this privilege behind the paywall. But it's not, yeah, it's not me trying to get rich off it. I'm definitely not. But it's just, you've got some skin in the game and I've got some skin in the game, so let's all, open our kimono kind of thing, to mix all my metaphors. But
Sure.
yeah.
Well, and for anybody who's interested in the economics of the industry at the independent level, for anybody who's an aspiring creator, I have to imagine, I mean, what a wealth of information you are making available to people. I've been really impressed and surprised by how transparent you've been, even on just the free version on Wednesdays, with some of the breakdowns of some of your campaigns. And I've thought this is an insight that I am thrilled to get and see. And at the same time, I'm like, wow, Adriano's laying a lot out there for people to see. And so my hat's off to you for that. So where else can people find you online? What are the socials they need to look for to keep up with what you do, and, to get copies of your comics if they want to check them out?
Yeah, so I make it very easy. Pesto Comics, Pesto Comics.com. That'll send you to my website. I'm still working on getting the store up properly on there. So if you go right now, chances are you can't buy anything yet. I'm working on it. Once that's live, I will share it widely, and I'll probably have some kind of promo code so you can get a deal on some of the back issues. But the best way to get back issues today is to go to Kickstarter. You could look up my name, Adriano Ariganello. Good luck spelling that. But if you go to pestocomics.com, it'll send you to the Kickstarter. So you don't have to remember anything. I make sure that front page is live with whatever is the most pertinent campaign, and it'll send you to Kickstarter so you can find out what you either need to follow or what you can back to get all of the back catalog. If you're looking for me on socials, same thing. Pesto Comics at Pesto Comics, not Pesto Comics. Pesto at Pesto Comics on everything. So Blue Sky, Twitter, and Instagram is where I've narrowed it down. I used to be on everything, so you can still find Pesto Comics on other socials. I'm much less focused on those now. I found, I only have so much time in the day, so those are the three I'm focused on right now. So Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram is where you can find me. I also have the YouTube, as I mentioned. That's where the podcast goes. It goes on Pesto Comics on YouTube, so you can find me there as well. I'm working on some things for there, as I mentioned, but right now you're just going to get the audio versions of the newsletter as well. So more to come there, but very easy. Pesto Comics everywhere. You'll find it.
That sounds great. Adriano, thank you so much for being so open with your time tonight. And I guess I should say, for both of these episodes that we're going to split this conversation up into, this has been tremendous. I have enjoyed this so much. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. This was a ton of fun.
Well, and I hope that people will check our show notes as well, because we'll have links to all of those things that Adriano just read out. And I hope you'll go and support Pesto Comics. Well, hey, with that, I want to thank all of our listeners for being here once again. As always, keep reading those comics.